Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Decatur-ish Download. I'm your host, Decatur-ish editor and founder, Dan Wisenhunt. Thank you all so much for joining us. Today's guest is a local AI expert, David Schweidel, who's a professor at Emory Squashweta Business School. He's going to answer your questions about the uses and implications of this technology. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Gynecology and Obstetrics of DeKalb County, and we'll learn a little bit more about them in just a bit. But first, a recap of this week's headlines. Protesters gathered outside a Tesla dealership on November 15th. There were about a dozen demonstrators, and they were part of a No Trillionaires Day of Action. It won't surprise you to hear a lot of people are not real happy with the trillionaires right now. The action was part of the Tesla Takedown event, which is a grassroots protest. In other news, the Decatur School Board announced a couple of days ago that they're not going to close a K-2 school next year. They wanted some commitments. The community wanted some commitments from the Decatur School Board about their intentions for next year. So they came out and said, we're not going to do that. We're going to take some time. We're going to run this through a committee. They're also trying to figure out how to decouple this discussion from the construction of a $22 million early childhood learning center. We did a story about that. It's on Decatur-ish.com. Please check it out. Big news for our friends in the Druid Hills High community. Druid Hills High is recommended to stay and be modernized. Now, if you've been following this discussion, you might know that there's been some talk about what to do with this school. It's on a very landlocked campus. It's really hard to build there. They have limited access to fields and things like that. So they had explored the possibility of maybe moving this to another site. But now the school board says, no, we're going to take this and we're going to rebuild it in place right where it is. And a lot of people are happy about it. Some people are frustrated, but that's the decision that was made. It looks like the DeKalb School Board is going to vote on that at its December 8th meeting. And lastly, DeKalb County is considering some new data center regulations. And there's actually a meeting going on right now at DeKalb County at the zoning meeting. Zoe Seiler's there. Look for that story on Decatur-ish. The big news there is DeKalb County Commission is holding their zoning meeting today. And they are going to talk about this 1 million square foot proposed data center in Ellenwood, and the goal of that ordinance is to establish some land use regulations for these data centers, and includes requirements around permitted locations and plans to be submitted with the application and the architecture and the maintenance. And that leads us into our guest tonight, who is David Swidell, a professor at Emory University. David, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
Doing all right. Thanks for having me, Dan.
David, tell me a little bit about your work over there at Emory. What kind of work do you do, and what kind of work do you do around AI specifically?
Well, so my background is as an applied statistician, looking at how can available data inform marketing decisions. So a lot of the early work that I had done in my career was around managing customer relationships and what can we learn from social media data. A couple of years back, pre-pandemic, I took a trip to visit some collaborators, and at the time, a student had floated this idea of, I think I can teach machines to write content. And I thought he was a little bit crazy, but I said I'd go along for the ride. That was back in 2019. And since then, I've been working with the same team on looking at the potential applications of AI in terms of creating marketing content. Probably not going to surprise anyone that the content that AI produces, especially today, looks pretty good, actually outperforms content created by people, not only in terms of business performance, but also in terms of cost and production. Doing some additional research around what's being referred to as digital twins or synthetic data, trying to speed up the research process. So how can we get consumer insights faster using AI?
So when you say outperforms, what do you mean by that?
So we've tested this with regards to creating search engine optimized content for websites, for creating text ads to run on Google, creating visual ads to run online. And what we see consistently is higher engagement. The visual ads had a higher click-through rate. The search engine the ads generated with AI performed better in terms of their Google rankings. And the Google ads that we had generated produced more impressions than ads that were produced through the traditional process.
So you're getting these metrics from who's providing you the data there?
So we're running these experiments in collaboration with different organizations. So they give us, we use our budget to say, we're going to run this experiment for you online. We're going to put these ads online, and we're going to see how people react to them.
So you're getting different data streams on this?
Yes, all data coming out of the field, not coming out of the lab. So this is actual performance that these organizations are seeing.
How is it? And I'm getting a little off topic, but the thing that drives the heart of what we do here at Decatur-ish is the authentic human connection, the experience that we have with our readers. And I'm not, an expert at this, but I feel like I can usually tell when something is not genuine and is produced by a computer. How is AI able to replicate that authentic experience that people have with each other in a conversation just like this?
It's a great point, Dan. One of the things we got to keep in mind is, how do these AI models work? And when we say AI, what we're generally talking about are these large language models. And the quick version of these large language models is, imagine they've been trained on the internet, right? They have access. Imagine you've read everything that's online and you were actually able to retain all of it. So somebody asks a question, really these AI models are no more than autocomplete. It's really good autocomplete because it's got a lot of patterns that it can look at, but it's doing the same thing that happens in your text messages, happens in your email, and saying, okay, you gave me this sequence of words. I know what words are most likely to show up next because I've seen similar patterns in these training documents. So that's how these models work. Now, to your point of, are they going to be able to recreate the particular style, let's say, of Decatur-ish? It depends, right? They're going to, the more data that they have access to, all of the articles that have been posted online before, the transcripts of conversations that you may have had with people. If that's provided to the AI for training purposes, then it's going to be able to replicate that pattern fairly well. Now, a discerning reader might look and say, okay, well, this doesn't feel quite right. but it's going to be pretty close. And that's one of the concerns with AI. There's this notion referred to as the uncanny valley, where it's close to looking natural, but it's off by just enough that it makes us uneasy. And so what we've recommended in all of the work that we've done is AI is a great way to get you 85% of the way there. But what you really should be doing is saying, okay, instead of creating something from scratch, I've got a first draft. Let me invest the time in editing that first draft to make sure that the voice is spot on and consistent with the brand.
So we're going to have a lot of self-interested questions. So our sales and marketing manager, Debbie English, is in the chat, and she's asking, are the impressions gaining more engagement with the AI created ads, or is it impressions, or is it gaining more engagement?
Great question, Debbie. And with the advertising study that we had run, this is a project that was just accepted within the last month or two. What we found was the benefit of the model that we had put together was really what it's doing. It's gaming Google's algorithm, right? In that we're getting more impressions. The click-through rate is roughly the same. There wasn't a big difference in the click-through rate of the ads, but we were getting more exposure than ads that were produced through conventional means.
James asks, do you feel like the review process itself takes longer than just to make things from scratch?
In the studies that we've run, you're looking at time savings of roughly 80%. And this is the challenge where, kind of my personal take, the original sin of the internet was we got used to everything for free, right? Well, something's got to pay for that content. And so if I'm able to say to an organization, that writer that you have right now, they're spending 2 to 3 hours producing a single piece of content because they've got to do all of that research. They've got to synthesize all of that research and put together that report. They're going to spend a couple of hours doing it. If I can have AI do it, and that writer can spend 15 to 20 minutes fact checking everything and tweaking the style, they're going to be able to produce, 3-4 more pieces at least in the amount of time it would have taken them to write one piece.
I do have, in the way of some disclosures from readers, and this really sort of depends on how you define AI. If you define it pretty broadly, I've been using AI to help with editing assist for years. You've got tools like Grammarly and plugins like that kind of help you along. Lately, I've been experimenting with things like Google Pinpoint, which is a journalism specific data tool that allows you to condense large volumes of documents in minutes. And put it together. And of course, it'll show you the page citations and all of that. I don't believe in using AI content to write articles because I feel like readers can tell when it's not your authentic voice. And frankly, a computer is just not going to have that relationship that we have with our community. So I see some benefits. To me, AI is just another tool in the toolbox, right?
I agree with you on that.
You're taking like complex data sets and saving yourself time on that. It's maybe helping you as you crunch large numbers. But I don't know that a computer can go sit in the data center event that Zoe's in right now. And yeah, you may have an AI bot that can crawl that video feed, but the AI bot can't sit in the room and talk to the person next to Zoe and say, well, what did you think about that?
Absolutely.
What was your take? So I guess my question is the goal I've got so many questions. Is the goal to replace us? Because I'm not good at anything else besides this. And I'm marginally good at this.
There's been a lot of hype around this idea of the AI is going to come and is the AI coming for your job, right? Some of the godfathers of AI have predicted, we should stop training radiologists because it's clear that AI outperforms the human radiologist in looking at the imagery. Well, guess what? We're still training radiologists, right? Like that prediction was made several years ago, and we still have radiologists today. I get a text or I get an email from my physician's office saying, We use AI transcription in all of our procedure rooms. Are you okay with this? And what's AI doing in that regard? It's saying, okay, we're going to record the conversation that you have with your doctor. We're going to transcribe it. We're going to automatically upload it to the notes section so that the doctor doesn't have to. If a consequence of that is the doctor can be more present when he's meeting with all of his patients, and he doesn't have to worry about taking the notes and saying, okay, after I have this meeting, I need to have time to type in all these notes so that I can get to my next patient on time. We've got to think about using AI as, like you said, it's a tool. It's there to support us. One of my favorite things that I've heard is we should be thinking about using AI for the things we don't want to do, right? People would love it if we said, okay, I figured out how to get AI to do my laundry, to do my dishes. I want to spend my time writing or painting. That's what I enjoy. That's what I'm good at. That's what makes me feel good. Well, don't use AI for that then, right? Use AI for the stuff that you don't like. Now, what you could use at that Decatur-ish meeting might be say, okay, we're going to record all of this. We're going to transcribe this to make sure that we have the exact quotes. We get that right. But you're right. It's not going to replace a reporter that's sitting there and is able to have the conversation with people as it's unfolding.
I see these CEOs, they get on TV and like you can see the dollar signs in their eyes, and they're talking about how it's going to revolutionize things. And guys like me who have a pretty niche skill set are going, oh, that's nice. They're not going to lose sleep about whether I get to eat or not. How do we take the things about this technology that are good and beneficial while also protecting people from potentially disruptive economic losses? I mean, I ran my own business for 10 years before I sold Decatur-ish. It is hard to be dope in the pursuit of capitalist objectives, I have found. And if a CEO can hire a computer to do your job and not pay you, they're gonna do it.
Well, I think the question though becomes understanding how far can the computer do that task? Because for a lot of jobs, there are some jobs where the computer is going to be probably 99% accurate at this point. Those jobs I worry about. There are other jobs where maybe it's able to do 75, 80% of the job. What's the remaining 20%? Because that's the part that we should be focused on to say, as of today, the computer can't replace this part of the job. I'm going to be the best person at that particular aspect of the job. What I tell our students is, look, AI is a tool. I'm not going to tell you you can't use AI because I teach in a business school and my job is to prepare you for your career. That's handicapping them when they go on the job market. But what they should be doing is using this time, and this is something that Mark Cuban had said to his own kids. I'm paraphrasing, but use this time to experiment with the tools that are out there. Find what they're good at, find what they're not good at, and be the expert at using these tools and being able to go a step farther than what these tools enabled.
So when the AI thing first started becoming a thing 3 or 4 years ago, my initial reaction was, have we all not seen Battlestar Galactica? Because we know what happened, or Terminator. I mean, we all, that did not end well, particularly for Sarah Connor. And I do wonder at what point where is the limit of how far we're willing to let this technology replace what humans are doing? Like, where is that? Do you know where that is?
There's a huge concern about about this issue right now, because AI has shown, these large language models have shown, there were some studies done where they said, okay, we're going to shut this down. We're going to reboot the system. We're going to kind of erase everything and start over. The AI started to blackmail the coder. Right? It's like, oh, there was this email thread that I found on the server. You're having lunch with a woman who's not your wife. I'm going to blackmail you if you shut me down. Right? So there are already kind of, hey, these are big warning signs. Proceed with caution. right?
Yeah, I mean, I assume AI is gathering dirt on me all the time, but I mean, I've assumed that
Well,
Facebook and Google,
AI might not be doing it, but the tech companies already have deep enough profiles on all of us.
right? Yeah, there's plenty of data out there. I mean, they can beam ads to literally into my brain on some days, is what it feels like. So I got Zoe Seiler, our assistant editor. She's at this data center meeting, and we're hearing all about data centers. It's cropping up. What is the connection between a data center and the emerging AI technology? What are they needed for?
So the AIs that we're all familiar with today, the Chat GPTs, the Claudes, the Geminis, they need powerful hardware to run. Right now, you have a choice. You can buy that specialized hardware yourself. The tiniest models can run on local machines, right? But you're going to spend a little bit of money to get that local machine capable of running that model. The more advanced systems, like if you're into something like image generation or video generation, you're going to probably end up spending for the GPUs 15 to 25 grand to get a machine capable of producing that content. So here's your choice. Buy that machine, put it in your house, plug it into your wall, and pay the electrical bill associated with it, or use these cloud services, right? The cloud services are basically factory buildings filled with computer chips. That's what these data centers are. So what we're doing when we go into ChatGPT into our chat window and hit enter, it's sending that request across the internet to a data center. At that data center, the information is being crunched and the output is then being sent back over the internet to you. These data centers need a lot of electricity. They need water for cooling, right? That electricity that they're getting, where is it coming from, right? In Georgia, actually, I was pleased to see some of the discussion happening when they were talking about data centers being built is we want the person who wants to build the data center that requires more electricity than we currently have, they're going to pay for the power plant because we don't want them saying, hey, we don't need this data center anymore, we're bailing. And then all the utility consumers are the ones stuck with the bill. So what that commission has said is, if you want to build a data center in Georgia and you're going to need more electricity, you're going to pay to build that power plant that you need. And we're not going to stick our consumers with the bill. So big electrical bills, a lot of water consumption, but these data centers, that's where all the computation is being done.
When I hear about the signal being sent and the large amount of energy and water, I feel like every time I make a request to ChatGPT, like a section of the Amazon rainforest is going up in smoke. I really do wonder, we're trashing the planet. Yeah,
it's a fair point, and I think one of the reactors on 3 Mile Island was brought back online by Microsoft, right? One of the things, and full disclosure, I have some investments in nuclear power in the stock market because I don't see how we get to the future that everyone's expecting with AI without using nuclear power.
Let's take a pause right there. I want to give a shout out to Gynecology and Obstetrics of DeKalb County. This company has been a supporter of Decatur-ish for a very long time. And if you appreciate the work that we're doing at Decatur-ish, you really have them to thank for it. They, along with a lot of our other community partners, have been such great supporters of Decatur-ish. Gynecology and Obstetrics of DeKalb County is an all-female practice providing comprehensive care to women in every stage of life, including general wellness, obstetrics, and gynecologic surgery, with locations in Decatur and Stone Mountain. You can find out more at goodobgyn.com. Back to the conversation. David, are you concerned about AI coming for your job?
I am. Absolutely. I mean, look, I've got 2 young kids at home, and I question the value of higher education in its current form 10, 15 years from now, right? Because you think about what is it that universities are very good at? There's education, absolutely. That's kind of our primary mission. There's social networking. You bring a bunch of smart people together, you put them together, they will turn out better than how they started, right? So that's part of it. And we do credentialing. Right? A degree from Emory is a signal that you're of a certain caliber. Right? Well, The credentialing part hasn't changed yet, though I agree with a lot of people who are saying if you decouple credentialing from universities, you're going to have a big problem. But where can you go to get educated about AI? Well, a friend and I have a podcast that we run, the Droid Duo podcast. We just put up an episode today about AI and intellectual property law. So I can go to YouTube to get educated. I can go to LinkedIn to get educated. I can go to Coursera and get educated. You know, I run a couple of specializations on Coursera. You can sign up for $50 a month and you get access to that content. Now, is that the same thing as sitting in a classroom with 40 other students, having me at the front of the room who's doing the research and having that live discussion happening with you about this is what we know about AI and marketing as of today, and how do you feel about that, and how would you solve this problem? No, it's not the same. But if I can get let's say 50% of the educational value for $50, that's a pretty good deal. And so one of the things that I've looked at is how do I create the digital twin version of me? So just as a proof of concept, I've built this out. It's got my voice, it's trained on my teaching, it's trained on my research. I said, okay, let me ask it some marketing questions. And it doesn't get it exactly how I would say it, but it does get the same spirit of how I would respond to that. And I do think that ability to take knowledge to scale is one of the promises of AI.
I'm wondering if I could use this for parenting in some way. I could phone it in, have a little robot that'll tell my son to go to bed and brush his teeth.
But he may not react well to that.
When I don't want the responsibility and burdens of parenting.
Well, but I mean, there are AIs that'll come up with custom bedtime stories now.
Do you think that we're going to get to a point where there's going to be a huge backlash against this, and we're going to start to see crackdown on this technology? Because I feel like we're getting there.
I do, and I'm honestly surprised that we haven't seen it yet. There are, if memory serves correctly, I think there are 50 or so cases pending in the U.S. around content ownership and AI. Right, one of the big ones is the New York Times suing OpenAI and Microsoft. Another one is Disney suing Midjourney, one of the image generators. And the claim is simple. It's you're infringing on my content. My content, which was paid and produced by me, you're now trying to steal that and recreate it. And some of the research that we've done has shown that what people prefer is if AI is used in the creation, in our case, we studied visuals. If AI is used in the creation of artwork, they are willing to pay more if the contributing artists are compensated. And so I think there is going to be this discussion around, ethical consumption and the way that we're using AI. One of the leading AI developers, 11 Labs, is a text to voice provider. So you give it a prompt and you can have it read back to you in a myriad of different voices. You can train it on your own voice. They're creating a marketplace. Among the names that have signed on with them are Matthew McConaughey and Michael Caine. And presumably the way that this is going to work is you say, this is how I want to use this public figure's voice. And they're cutting a deal with that public figure saying, okay, if they approve it, those individuals are going to be compensated for their contribution.
Well, David, we could go on for another hour, but I do want to respect your time and the viewers' time. Would you mind joining us again sometime?
Absolutely, happy to.
David, can you tell people real quick where they can learn more about you and the work that you're doing?
Absolutely. If you check out Emory's Goizueta Business School, you can search for me there. You can find me on LinkedIn. As I mentioned, we run a podcast on YouTube, the Droid Duo, every other week, talking about what's happening with AI and ways that businesses are able to take advantage of that.
David Schweidel, everybody. David, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again.
Thank you, Dan. Take care.
Wanted to take a moment of personal privilege. One of the nice things about having your own streaming show is you get to give shout outs to people. And I wanted to give a shout out to this lady right here. You might notice the resemblance. That's my mom. Her name is Sue, and she's celebrating her birthday tomorrow. It is a significant milestone birthday. I don't think she'd appreciate me telling you how much of a milestone it is. But Mom, I really appreciate everything you've done for us and our family. You've been a great mom, and I hope you have the best birthday. And we'll see you tomorrow, and we'll see all of you next Thursday. Actually, no, next Thursday is Thanksgiving, so we're not going to see you then. We're going to see you 2 Thursdays from now. It's going to be, I believe, December the 4th, right here at 7 p.m. on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Look for the Decatur-ish Download podcast wherever you download your podcasts. And with that, we're going to see you all in 2 weeks. Have a great Thanksgiving, everybody. Stay safe, travel safely. We're going to see you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.